John in Arnold, Missouri. John, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you.
Cool, John. What did you want to talk to us today about?
So I called, I think it's about 5 months ago now, and I believed a bunch of nonsense at the time. And I think I've kind of sorted it out. And I today would describe myself as an atheist and an anti-atheist.
What were you before, John?
I have been an atheist for most of my life. There was a period of time where I would have called myself a humanist Christian, or because when I called in last time, I was really convinced that magic was real and that Jesus was magic. And at this point in time, I think I'm more comfortable with the idea that magic may or may not be real, but I'm going to live my life as if it's not, because I don't have enough evidence and it doesn't seem to have any impact on the world around me.
Wow. Hey, John, I got a message from somebody, I believe it was last week, that came into the studio and handed me a note and said, here, this is from John. That was from you. Okay, wow. So, was our conversation a part of your change in your beliefs?
So our conversation definitely helped a lot. And then part of it was just hitting at a pretty hard rock bottom as well. So after I hit that rock bottom and going back and listening to the recording, and it's just hearing the questions you were asking and not having good answers to any of them, it's just man, how did I get so deep down the rabbit hole? And I think that the answer to that question upon reflection is just that if you walk around the United States saying positive things about Jesus Christ, people are just going to go along with it. And it feels really good.
Yeah. So, man, okay, wow. So many questions.
Especially for me, after I was going through a divorce, I had a violent interaction with my father. My mother wasn't speaking to me. I was going through a lot of different stuff. And it's just all right. Basically, everyone I encountered was just well, church will fix your problem. I was just all right, I guess I'm not being intellectually honest if I don't at least try. And it's just I had a good friend who reached out to me through social media and was just hey, I'll take you to my church. And I was just all right, fine. I'll give it a chance.
Wow.
What's the worst thing that could happen?
Man, could believe in things that you don't believe in anymore. I think that's one thing, right? Wow.
Well, in retrospect, I don't know. I'm not angry with the person that took me there.
Sure.
They wanted to help me.
Yeah.
That experience was generally positive. I felt really good. I was obviously, because if you're a mess at church, or at least at this church specifically, people are just oh, well, you're in the right place. We're here. We want you to get better. We want you to be supportive. We want this and that. Whereas in the previous setting I had been, it was not supportive at all. And one thing that I thought was really interesting from the previous call was the mention that the thought that religion is a mental illness. But I think what's also really dangerous is the kind of a reverse of that, in that I think that sometimes theistic people look at atheism as the mental illness.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That is 100%.
And do you know what's really terrifying?
What's that?
Being involuntarily committed to a hospital, having a theistic doctor that thinks that theism or atheism is a mental disorder.
Oh, no. Are you telling me that's what happened to you?
Oh, God, I wish it wasn't.
Oh, wow. Man.
So, basically, it was a pretty dreadful experience. But where I am now, I go to work, I work out, and I'm trying to just meet new people and rebuild my social group. So I have my basic needs. I have a place to live.
Yeah.
I have income to pay for all of my needs, and I'm just working on self-actualization.
Yeah. Hey,
So I know you said you had questions.
I was gonna say, well, I don't know if the audience mic is on. If it's not, I'm gonna do it anyway. I just want a round of applause for this guy right here. I guess the mic's not on. That's okay. Oh, there it is. John, that's amazing to hear. I'm so glad you're in a better place now. It brings me back to my own story and how I kind of ended up the way that I was. And it's so interesting that even though, like, we just talked about how emotions can sometimes be separate and also a part of our beliefs. Well, you just told me a lot of what you were feeling at the time and what was happening to you emotionally. And I think that's so interesting that you share with me those details because that still played a part in your beliefs. Like, and for better or worse, that's a part of your story and that's part of who you are. And I think I wish people just acknowledge that more. You know, if we could just be more honest about, yeah, like, stuff happened to me, and that's kind of why I believe the way that I do, too. Like, that's okay. Like, I think is it okay in every single situation? Absolutely not. But it's better to acknowledge it than just to say it's not there, right? I don't want to talk too much. I want Suris to kind of pipe in on this because this is really interesting.
So I agree that it's important. Like as an example, I grew a lot of my positions on things do come from a perspective of somebody who grew up incredibly poor. My personal experiences are a part of that. I also grew up in a very violent neighborhood, so most of my personal experience are going to be based on that. And then when I deal with evangelical Christians, the fact that I grew up as a young Earth creationist means that a lot of my arguments are going to come from, no, I understand where you're coming from. I was you for 18 years. Stop it. Hold on. Here's this information.
Suris wore this shirt unironically. This Teach the Controversy shirt. It was amazing.
So I actually, I completely understand the concept of all of your experiences that you have around you, kind of like tailoring your approach to something, and then realizing maybe like a year or two later, I know that here it's like 5 months down the road, where you kind of look back at your other experiences and go, actually, no, I was responding that way because of things that were going on at the time. As an example, we had we were doing a stream on the abortion bill that was happening in Georgia. And because the stream already had me a little heated, shortly after me already being heated, Matt Powell comes on the stream, of all people. And my response to him was not the same as it is in normal. Normally, my response to Powell is just to kind of like laugh and go, yeah, no, you're here and you're making a fool of yourself and you could probably stop. This time I was like going, get in my Discord. Let's have a chat. I would like to throat stomp you. And I recognize, like, after the stream, I'm like, no, I was actually just really angry at the time. And that's why I let all of that out. So I don't have much comment aside from just like pure empathy. I understand where you're coming from. I've been there.
Man, like, I did say I had questions, but like, honestly, I could ask a billion questions about your experience, John, because and I'll never get to the heart of it. I know that. I know that's going to be up to you and how you tell your story and how it goes. But I do just want to know, like, do you feel like you're at a place now where your beliefs are as dependent on your emotional state, your hierarchy of needs? Do you feel like you've met those needs now and your beliefs are separate from that?
So I think so. Like, honestly, I know what I need to do to not die, and I feel like that's like the most useful thing I can do. Like, if I work out, take care of my body, take care of my mind, that will give me a long, healthy life. And like, that's what I want. I want to have a long and healthy life. So I'm actively doing things to ensure that happens.
Sweet.
And just like things that work, like exercising works for me. Jiu-jitsu works for me. And like, work is just a thing I have to do, like, because I'm not bored rich.
Yeah.
But so the thing that was really frustrating for me is just like, I felt like for the first time I was like achieving self-actualization. Like, so I went from just being atheist moving to anti-theist, and my main motivation was that my future ex-wife wanted to move to Utah. It's like, all right, Utah, Mormonism, that's not super great. I'm not a big fan of Mormonism. I think that that's something that would be especially if I'm going to be there. Like, I feel like I should actively oppose this because I think that it does harm in the world.
They do have the Bible Christmas special, though.
The Bible Christmas special. I've never heard it called that before. That's funny.
Okay, look. If the Torah is episode 4 of Star Wars, then the Bible would be The Empire Strikes Back, and the Quran would be Return of the Jedi, and this little thing would be Star Wars: The Christmas Special.
See, I've seen that meme, and it's always been Spaceballs is what the Book of Mormon.
I don't. Okay, look. The difference here is that Spaceballs is a respectable piece of media.
Oh God. Yeah, that's what I need right now, Suris. I need all of the Mormons to come attack me on this show. That's what's gonna happen next. No, but seriously, yeah, the anti-theism thing that's a separate issue entirely. Like, what I know, man, I don't know if I want to get into that right now. What I want to keep asking you just a few more questions, John, or just at least just have these conversations, because like it's. People do email me sometimes and say, "Oh, I'm glad we had this conversation and stuff." But it is interesting to see, like, "Oh yeah, I did change my mind on this thing." Like, and there were reasons for that. And while you're able to recall those reasons now, I would just love to just examine that with you. So like, you had a belief about Jesus and magic and stuff. Like, can you kind of explain what that was and like why you don't like have that belief anymore?
So basically, I had this really unfortunate experience involving a mental hospital, which I have a lot of problems with, and I'm hoping to eventually, like, I feel like if I do normal things long enough, I'll hopefully be able to hire a lawyer and have some kind of recourse with these actions, because it felt criminal experiencing it. And then just like after going through that experience, it's just like I so understand zealots now, like religious zealots. It's just like you go through this traumatic experience and like it doesn't break your beliefs, it just makes them stronger. It's just like, I'm definitely right, everyone else is wrong. Mm-hmm. I just need to make them understand. That was kind of where I was. So then I was going to like I went to a couple of different churches, and it's just like with the music, and then like also just like all the memories from childhood. It's just like I know all these songs. Like these songs make me feel good. I feel good in church. Like there must be something to this. Like all these people are getting clean and doing this and doing that, and it's just like maybe they're right. Like maybe I just didn't open my heart enough.
In there.
So meanwhile, I get all of those same feelings by being in a card shop playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I've seen people turn their lives away from drugs because they wanted to play card games. Therefore, the efficacy of turnaround is there in card games as much as it is in religion.
Yeah. Oh, God. John, yeah, and people don't really realize that like churches have a target audience. Churches have a target market in their messages, like just like any other form of business that like wants to recruit people. And I'm not saying that every single church has malicious reasons in doing that, right? But I am saying that like, look, when the lights are dim and the youth pastor's got the acoustic guitar out, and he just and there was just a message about how you shouldn't be looking at porn because that's like not a thing you should be doing, and you feel guilty because you just did it last weekend, and like that gets to you, and like that's the kind of thing that gets people into this for sure. I mean, we see it all the time. It happens every single week.
It's just marketing 101 just with a religious spin.
Yeah, for sure. And like I am so sorry that you were like a victim of that. I mean, really, you're a victim of that. And some of your state at the time was preyed upon by people, and again, maliciously or not, I'm not sure. It sounds like that you're very forgiving of the people who eventually brought you into that, and I'm happy. That
I don't think that I definitely interacted with people that behaved maliciously because I was convinced that like I was convinced that everything was just going to work out. It's just like, all right, I don't need to worry about the consequences of any of my actions, so I'm just going to do whatever I want all the time forever. And eventually, that could get you into trouble when you have credit cards. So it like it's not like catastrophic or anything. I'm going to be fine. But like, I definitely encountered some people that did take advantage of my state of generosity. And like, some of them were people that were in need. So like, maybe they're not like, they just needed things. And then I thought I was like doing the work of the Lord. So I was just like, all right, I will get you whatever you need.
Oh man.
And then I had other people where it's just like, they just took advantage. Like a really close personal friend, like took advantage of my generosity really, really bad. And then like, we got in this really horrible argument and we haven't spoken since. So it's just like, it was a pretty wild ride, but like, one thing that's, I thought it was important, or I wanted to bring up, was the first thing that made me like think I was an atheist to myself. So I remember I was walking through church. I was like in middle school, like between 13 and 15, and thinking to myself that my experience in confirmation, so like I was in the Lutheran church and like reading the catechism over and over again, chanting it together in the group, like, I believe X, Y, Z, all of these things are true, like chanting that over and over and over again. Like, I'm walking through the hallway to myself thinking, it's just like, wow, I'm pretty sure this is literally exactly how the Hitler Youth became the Holocaust. Like, this type of indoctrination.
Oh, there's a wonderful quote on that actual concept that I heard recently. And it's basically like how you get people who don't think that there's how you get people who otherwise would not do horrible things to do something horrible. If I were to ask you, if I paid you a sum of money right now, would you put your best friend under a knife? Would you start cutting them up? Your answer, your like go-to knee-jerk answer is almost always going to be no. Or maybe more specifically, how much money, but let's not get into that one. That one's a bit messy. However, the argument that I've heard here is, in reality, outside of sum of money, all that it takes for you to think that it's worth it to cut someone up is to think that you're a surgeon. Because as soon as you think that you're a surgeon, when you are cutting someone, you are doing it for the greater good, even if in some cases, in reality, you may not be doing something for the greater good, like bloodletting of years past. Look at how George Washington died. Yeah. So if you take your Hitler Youth was your example, how did the Hitler Youth go into this to suddenly the Holocaust? Well, all they decided was that all it took for them to cut someone up was that they were surgeons, and they were ultimately doing something for the greater good. Yeah. Everybody is it's not a nuanced concept to say that everybody could possibly be a horrible person given the right circumstances. My argument is that the only circumstance required is for you to think that it's going to bring out some good. Yeah. You cut someone as long as you think you're a surgeon.
For sure. John, we are out of time for this call now, but I just want to say thank you so much for calling and telling me about your experiences, and that I at least played a small role in some of that. I feel really good about that, and I'm just really happy that I can be a part of something positive in your life. So thanks again for calling.
Well, I would like to say just one last quick thing. Like, the main reason I wanted to call in is just like, I wanted to say out loud that I personally identify as an atheist, and like have someone hear that and not think it's crazy, because like with where I live now, like I would not tell, like I don't want people to know that. Yeah. Like I think it's a good idea.
I get it. Yeah. Well,
like, that's like really upsetting.
Guess what? You just said it. Like, no, it's not pathetic. It's
upsetting.
Upsetting. I'm sorry. I thought you said pathetic. Yeah, listen, you said it to me. You said it to Suris. You said it to everyone here in the audience tonight, and everybody watching at home. It's going to be recorded forever. So there you go. You said it. I'm happy for you, man. I'm rooting for you. So
maybe one day I'll call you with my real name.
You'll call in, and then you'll be like, hey, guess what? I'm a Christian now. Psych. That was just a phase.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
Have
John.
A good day, Dan.
You too.
Is it Cyrus?
This is Suris. Suris the Skeptic.
All right.
Definitely check him out. John, thanks
thank
again.
You, gentlemen. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. We'll talk to you later. Man, what a roller coaster that call was, right?
It seems to me that like when I come on, you don't get all the Christian arguers.
Suris, we've had some dang calls when you've been on. Like it's been some good stuff.
Like the first time that I came on, it was all the polytheists calling in.
It was all the that was.
And I'm just like, I'm so glad that the person who co-hosts the show, or the polytheist, happens to be the one.
I think it was just because it was the Yuletide season, so all the polytheists. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so like just before we go, we have one more call here that I want to say, but I just want to break this down like real quick, like. The stories that he's telling me about people taking advantage of it, man, that lights me up. I mean, people ask me sometimes why I do this show. People outside of that I know that are atheists, because they want to trust that my motives are good, right? They want to know if I'm like trying to convert people to something. And look, people believe things that hurt them, right? And that is evidence of it right there. And so if I can be a part of someone's process, and so that they aren't harmed by their beliefs anymore, then I want to be a part of that, right? Like I want to contribute to the conversation, help people rethink what they're doing, because the consequences, as he found out, they do matter, right? People do take advantage of you. Eventually bills got to be paid off, and life hits you hard. And when you don't have a fairy godmother or a god or some sort of force guiding your life anymore, then it hits you real hard. And I don't want people to figure that out the hard way. I'd rather people figure it out through having conversations like this, right? So
when people self-actualize and have their identity tied very strongly to their religion, sometimes losing that, it's a lot like, and I'm not trying to frame this in an overtly negative way, but it's a lot like having an addiction to something and then quitting cold turkey. It is nightmarishly hard, and then in many ways you end up trying to replace what you were addicted to with something else. I know that it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison, because these are not, both of these concepts are not overtly negative, but it does seem like it echoes a little bit, where there's like, sometimes it's the aspect of community that's missing and people seek out community elsewhere. Sometimes it's the aspect of like fulfillment that they get from there. Like, oh, my life has purpose because I'm being guided by X, Y, and Z.
And we didn't even talk about love bombing. Like love bombing is a thing. That's what cults do.
but that's a little more culty. That's a little more culty.
But I mean, like it's normal for a place to be welcoming and stuff like that. But to prey on people's emotional vulnerability specifically because of specific situations, like that happens too. And it sounds like that's what's happened to him, right? He went to a service and he was emotionally supported at a time where he wasn't normally getting that, and so he kind of wanted more of that, like anybody would. But anyway, I'm so glad, Josh. I'm so glad you got to call back to the show and we got to hear back, because that makes my day, makes my week. I mean, that's the stuff. That's the reason why I do this stuff right here.